Hello and welcome to Clamp, the Creating, Living, and Making podcast. I'm your host, Morley Kurt, and joining me as always is Grant Alexander.
Hello.
And Mr. Adam Mackey.
Hello.
It's been a little while. I feel like it's been half a lifetime since I've talked to you guys. What have you been up to, Adam?
even for us, it feels like it's been a lifetime as well because we recorded like a week and a half ago for the last episode.
Oh,
but then
true.
I forgot that you weren't even on last week, so it's even another week on that for you.
Yeah. It's been. There's a lot of stuff has happened. What have you been up to, Adam?
I haven't really been doing much. I cut out a drawer front on the CNC for my tool drawer, but I haven't got any further than that. I haven't actually cut it out any further than that. Just the CNC work. So I want to get that done so I can get the video done for the tool drawer. Get that out. And then I've just been like online shopping a lot because my wife's birthday is coming up and trying to get ahead. So because of lockdown, every single shop is closed except for like the main grocery stores and stuff. So everything I'm trying to buy online, I need everything here within the next like 15 days. And,
that's a pretty good amount of time. I feel like that's very doable.
Yeah. And then as I started buying stuff, Australia Post, which is like the same as USPS, has turned around and said, we're not picking up any orders for the next 4 days.
Yeah, and they returned to sender a lot of stuff, I heard.
Yeah, they have been doing that as well.
International.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been pretty tricky trying to get stuff ordered and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, it's all right. Getting there.
But it's better than what Canada Post and USPS did, which was to just keep accepting packages and having nowhere to put them.
Well, my question is, what are they going to do in 4 days' time when they have to go pick up 4 days' worth of orders?
They'll probably just only pick up from certain places.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
But it's been 4 days now, so hopefully everything starts getting picked up. I mean, there's only like 3 things that haven't actually been picked up yet, so it's not too bad, but just the stress of it all getting here on time.
Yeah, it sucks when stuff's like outside your control like that and you just got to wait.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's stressful. All right, what about you, Mr. Alexander? Excuse me, I'm host.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well, what have I been up to? I've been making some picture frames, and it's been, just regular old picture frames, nothing too exciting. They, turned out nice, but I've also went camping in the Boler again, and that was fun. That was our Labor Day. It was a holiday weekend, and it was nice, but we left a day early because it was raining all that day, and then the next day it was supposed to thunder shower, and I just didn't feel like getting up in the morning in a thunder shower and trying to pack everything away. So instead we packed in the light rain, but it was still fun, and we were on the St. Lawrence River. I got to see like giant cargo ships come by, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I wanted to take my canoe along, but the van has like crossbars, but the crossbars are aluminum, and the gunnels on my canoe are aluminum, and they just like the crossbars on the wagon have like a rubber strip in them, and that made it so that you could easily mount it, get it down, and then, like when you get it down, you're supposed to like push on the canoe, and if the canoe moves, it's not tight enough, and if the car moves, then you're good, right? Well, there's nothing I could do to get the canoe tight enough that it didn't move because there's no give between the aluminum crossbars and the aluminum gunnels. So no matter how tight I got it, and it was like, getting to the point where it would have any tighter and it would have buckled the canoe. It just kept making it loose. So I didn't take the canoe because I couldn't think of anything, 10 minutes before leaving on how to fix that. But if anyone out there has any ideas on what to do, please message me. I would. My first idea was like electrical tape or heat shrink tubing, because I wanted something that I leave on there. Not like, I know I can put like a pool noodle, but I just think that looks like garbage, and I want to have it like always there, not something I have to take off and on.
Well, you could wrap like a pipe insulation around, which is at least as black. Looks a little nicer, like with electrical tape.
Yeah, like the problem with pipe. So the in the van, the crossbars like hide. They have like a hiding location, so it needs to be super thin for them to fit in their like aerodynamic hiding location in the like the roof rack rails. It's kind of a neat design, but
I think heat shrink would probably be your best bet. I used heat shrink in the past for things like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, then that's probably where I'll go, unless somebody else has another idea. And yeah, the last thing I've been working on is I'm going to be making a bed for Fletcher, a toddler bed. It's going to be sort of like a tent. That's the plan, and it'll be fun. So his room is like dinosaur themed, as if he's like on a dinosaur safari. So he's going to be like camping out with dinosaurs is the plan.
Nice. Cool. I always wanted a 4-poster bed as a kid. That's what I think of when you say a tent-like bed. So I'm sure he'll love it.
Yeah. So this one's going to be more triangular.
Like a teepee?
Kind of like no, just like more like an old school triangle tent.
Nice.
But it'll be fun. Yeah,
like a house frame. House frame.
Yeah. It'll be fun. You guys will see it. Once you see it, you'll be like, yeah, that's what he's talking about.
To be a kid again.
I can imagine it. I have a picture in my head.
Okay. Well, once you see it, you might be, oh, that's what he actually meant.
I want to sleep in a dinosaur for safari.
Yeah, me too.
Sounds terrifying.
Oh, well, I will say while we were camping, we went to a place called Prehistoric World, and it was a blast. Fletcher really enjoyed it. There's just a whole bunch of like concrete dinosaurs in this guy's backyard. Like, say there was like 100 of them. And it's like they were like huge ones. They're small ones, right? And giant ones. Like, I think it was a life-size Brontosaurus. It was pretty awesome. And he really liked the Stegosaurus. They didn't have an Ankylosaurus, which made me sad because that's my favorite.
Anky's my favorite.
Yeah. And the saddest part is that he brought a whole bunch of dinosaurs with him. And when he got to Stegosaurus, he like had his backpack and he like pulled out all the dinosaurs and he didn't bring Stegosaurus. And so he was kind of upset at the fact that he couldn't show Stegosaurus, like his little toy that he loves. So he calls Stego. And he was like, I want to show Stego to this big Stegosaurus. Anyways, it was funny. So instead he showed him a car. And that seemed to be okay with him. So I got a bunch of pictures of a 1970s, I don't know, Dodge on top of a Stegosaurus. What are you up to, Morley?
Yeah, it's been a lifetime since I talked to you guys. So we wrapped up camp. It was a sprint to the finish line, in part because, so to give you the timeline, the last day of camp was a Friday. So that was the end. And that night we put on the end of season banquet for all of the staff. So for about 100 people, which was quite a thing to do on its own, aside from all of the camp planning. And then after that, the day after, we packed up everything because we run the camp out of a curling club and the other location is run out of a private school, and had to clean everything up and move back to the makerspace. And then the next day I left for vacation in the States. So it was like an incredibly busy week. It was fun. And it was a really nice ending, although there was a bit of damper on the final day because I was like a little sleep deprived because, like I mentioned last week, I was making the 8 leather bound notebooks for the instructors. And I stayed up pretty late the night before finishing them because I was going to give it to them on the last day of camp. And so every morning at camp, I fill up those big orange water jugs. I fill up 2 of them with ice and water for the kids. And I was wheeling them out like I do every day. And I hit a transition in the floor, the same one I hit every day. But on this particular day, I hit the transition and the cart flipped that I was wheeling them on. And those things hold a lot of water. Luckily, only one of them opened and whoosh, just like flooded the floor. So I was like, oh no, rushed to clean it up. And in the chaos of everything, I set my laptop directly in the puddle of water. And I didn't really realize it at the time, but then I came back to it after kind of cleaning up. And I'm like, oh, this is a thoroughly wet computer. And it did not turn on. So that whole day I like had fans on it and I was kind of stressed about not being able to use it. Cause it's just a thing, but with the work that I do, like so much of it is through my laptop, like my video editing, like this podcast, all my work at camp, at the job. So it really kind of felt like I was, had my legs broken to a certain extent. So I was trying to like keep perspective. I was like, this is just this annoying thing that happened. But luckily I took it to a computer repair shop in Cape Cod when I went to visit my family. Fantastic place. They took it apart, dried it off, put it back together, and it worked. So
really, wow,
all good in the end. And it was like a $75 just labor fee. So pretty much best case scenario.
Wow.
So I was very happy about that.
With that in mind, have you now backed up all your in progress stuff?
It is all backed up. So I put all of my projects, basically all of my videos and projects and everything I put on a hard drive. I edit directly off of my hard drive. Okay. I do still have a bunch of stuff on my computer, like random files and such, because my hard drives are essentially only for making videos and making and all my other little ventures. But it's still like, the workstation with all my programs set up how I want. So anyways, that's all good.
Yeah.
I have absolutely nothing backed up.
Me either.
Just want to throw that out there.
So it's all just saved locally on your computer?
Yeah. So, it used to be on a hard drive. So I used to transfer all my video, all my camera footage and everything over to my hard drive and then edit straight from that. And I've just put a brand new SSD into my computer because it has like 2 expansion slots. Because I was sick of having to have a hard drive plugged in. But now I'm thinking maybe I should transfer to the SSD and then also transfer to the hard drive as a backup. I don't know.
Yeah, you should.
But I don't care about keeping footage. It's just once the video is edited, I'm happy just to delete it.
So I have all my old footage on a hard drive.
Yeah, so do I.
I have lost hard drives. I've never lost a computer hard drive. Every time I've lost a hard drive, it's been external. So any external hard drive I have, I don't trust. I trust my computer, but obviously, that's just, some sort of like bias there on which hard drives die. It has nothing to do, like internal ones die all the time too. But if my computer were to die tomorrow and the hard drive was gone, I just quit. I'd just be done.
It sounds like your process could use some resilience, and I feel like a couple $100 hard drives would do you some good, state of mind wise.
No, I'm like, if that happens, that's the universe saying just quit. You don't need to do this anymore, and I'm okay with it.
We'll save the psychological review till later, but
right. I just like how you jump to just quit and not just quit that video.
Yeah,
I've got like 7 videos in progress on my thing. I've got probably like 300 gigabytes of video across 7 different projects.
Yeah,
back up your shit is all I'll say. Anyways, so that was all good in the end. Traveled down to the States, had a lovely time visiting family, doing lots of water activities, saw lots of friends in Boston who are now living and working there. And it was just an overall very nice time. Tested negative for COVID twice, so I'm in the clear, got back across the border. And yeah, I'm finishing up the video on making all those notebooks, which is it's a pretty, I think it's a pretty fun video because it like spans a lot of time and locations, and I filmed giving it to all the instructors. So I hope to have that out before this episode comes out. But yeah, now I'm back at work at the STEAM project. We're preparing for our our courses for this fall. We rented a new space in the same complex, basically a whole separate workshop for all of the woodworking and CNC and laser production work will be in there. And now the makerspace is kind of reserved for like the sewing and the robotics and the 3D printing and the sort of less dusty stuff. So it's the past 2 days have been like, okay, like how are we going to set these spaces up and unpacking from camp? And a cut that I stupidly got today just started bleeding again. So hopefully that doesn't bleed everywhere. But yeah, just like lots of unpacking boxes and things, and trying not to rush too much and get stupid little injuries like this one.
Always happen when you're in a rush.
Yeah, that's it. It's a lot of like, there's a lot of things to do. So it could be very easy to just like jump around from thing to thing. But yeah, like you said, that's when those stupid little injuries happen, like slicing the side of your finger with a utility blade that like is just poking a tiny bit out of the handle.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever gotten any other, like a more serious injury working, either in the shop or leatherworking, or
I think
out in the mountains?
Oh, well, now you're expanding it to other things. I mean, in terms of workshop injuries, I've had some really scary close calls to the point where you're like, you feel like your mind just split to a parallel universe. And like, I swear there's another version of me that just cut off my finger. You know when that happens, like when it's so close and it feels like it did happen and you have to like convince yourself that it didn't. I've had that happen a couple times where you just get really scared in the moment and you're like, oh, wow, I'm really happy that I have my finger, but I don't quite believe it. And it feels like I could have just lost it.
I've never had that happen.
Really, it's like the shock of the close call. That's what I feel.
I don't think I've ever got my fingers that close to the blade where I didn't feel I was in control.
It wasn't fingers being close to the blade. It was like really intense kickback or something falling where, it's a loud noise. It's a big bang where you feel like you didn't have control of the spinning tool in that moment. And you're like, it was kind of just fate that allowed it to not slice my leg in half. Yeah.
Okay. Definitely had that. You know what? I will say one time I did have it is that for some reason I was cutting through a piece of plywood with my circular saw and I started to reach underneath it to determine whether or not it was cutting fully through.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just looking. Like I wasn't like looking underneath it. I just my hand initially went to test to see if it was cutting, like the circular saw blade depth was enough with my fingers. And I stopped and I went, don't do that. That wouldn't be good. That would not be good at all. So I've had that. That would be one time where I probably went, oh, you should probably take a break.
I think my worst workshop injury was when I was about 9 years old and I was hanging out with my cousin at my grandpa's house and we got some sticks from the woods and we were using chisels to shave off the bark to make nice walking sticks. And I was holding the stick with one hand and the chisel in the other and I was chiseling directly towards my palm. The chisel slipped, went into my palm and I cut my hands and they filled with blood and went to the emergency room and they glued it shut. And after that experience, I'm very conscious of the direction that pointy tools are being pointed.
Yeah, it's Doug Linker has a thing, and he says, you can point it at your friend instead of yourself because you can always replace your friend.
Yeah. No, I'm very conscious of it now because I have to watch out for everyone who I'm managing to be safe. So I'm always thinking about it now. Like, it's people, what I notice the most is people get really into a project and then they just immediately forget about any safety. They're like, oh, I want to drill this hole. Like, I just want to get this hole drilled and then it'll be a 2-second operation and I'll be done. And they're doing it like in their lap with no clamps. They're holding a drill in one hand and a piece in the other. And you just have to be like, buddy, stop, put it on a table, clamp it down, and then restart. Like, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. That's what I'm telling people all the time is like just slow down. Like, look what you're doing. This is not safe. Yeah.
I always find it's the last hole or the last cut or the whatever it is. It's the last one that I had planned to do, not the last, and that's the one that either is going bad or, like is the close call, because I think in my mind I've already moved to the next thing. Right. So it's the same. If you're only doing one drill, you're like, I'll just hold it and drill it like this. Blah. No, that's not a good idea. Yeah. So I definitely hear you.
I feel like I get injured like every time I go into the shop.
Adam, have you had a bad or a moderate workshop injury?
Depends on how you put it. I mean, I've slipped with the drill a few times and got holes in my hands. So which one is it? This thumb, if I touch like the bottom part of my finger here, of my hand, I can feel it in the tip of my thumb.
Whoa!
Because I drilled through a nerve. And then there's another one, I think on this hand, on my other hand. Yeah. On my other hand, this finger, if I touch the end of it, I can feel it down at the bottom of my hand. But that was different. I cut my finger on a piece of glass. Yeah, I've drilled into my hand a few times. I've definitely cut myself a lot. And I'm very accident prone. I remember once I was using a brad nailer, and the nail went into the piece of wood. It must have hit a knot or something, turned around in the piece of wood and shot back out, hit me in the eyeball.
Oh, yeah. In the eyeball? Holy.
Yeah, I'm so lucky it didn't go in. Like, I wasn't wearing glasses or anything. Ever since I wear glasses every time I use a brad nailer. But yeah, it just bounced off, thank God.
Holy. Yeah, nailers are scary. They're so unpredictable. Like, one of my first days at the scene shop, like, I was being careful with, like, keeping my hand out of the path of the nail, but even so, like, it kind of shot out at an angle. This was like a 2.5 inch staple, and kind of went through the webbing between my thumb and my forefinger. And I was like, yikes, if that went a fraction of an inch lower, it would have been much more painful, but it wasn't actually too bad in the moment.
Yep.
Yeah. My biggest workshop injury that I can recall is like a kickback that got me in the gut. And it was like, trying to cut the wood, and it just like pinched the blade and just like threw it back at it. And it just got me right in the gut. And I know it was probably because I was doing a piece that was too small, like not long enough, and cutting it on the table saw. But if you've gone paintballing, and you've gotten like a close, like somebody's got you real close up, and you have got one of those welts from paintballing, it was like that.
Oh wow!
Except for it was square instead of circular.
That's intense.
Yeah.
All of my injuries have been like dumb mistakes, but like
that's
doing
what I
something
feel like.
Wrong and stuff.
Yeah,
I've never had like kickback or anything like that.
Yeah, and dumb injuries hurt the most as well. Like, one of my like most annoying injuries was I was walking. So McGill, the university I went to, is built on this big hill on the side of Montreal, which for the Anglophones means Mount Royal. And it was raining, and I was going to like this barbecue, walking up the hill, and I was kind of rushing through the rain, and it's where all like the student house, like apartments and stuff are. So, there's like smashed beer bottles and stuff around. And I stepped on a piece of glass, and it went like through the sole of my shoe and just like slightly poked me in the foot, enough that I realized it. And I was like, oh, I need to get this piece of glass out of my shoe, but it didn't actually cut my foot. And I kind of like stopped and quickly tried to kind of like pull it out of my shoe with my fingernail. And sorry about that. Like twice in a row, my nail slipped on the piece of glass, and it like kind of sliced my cuticle. And it happened once, and I was like, oh, like I just didn't get a good enough grip. And then I did it twice more, and it happened again. It made the cut even worse. And now my on my pointer finger, my cuticle is like all deformed because of where that cut happened.
Oh God.
And it wasn't like an especially bad injury, but it was so stupid and preventable, and entirely because I was rushing and like didn't want to be standing in the rain.
So when I was a kid, the bus shelter near our house, like me and my brother went to like catch the school bus to go to school, and the bus shelter near our house had been like smashed by some kids or whatever happened, or a car ran into it. I don't know. We weren't there for that part, but there was just glass all on the ground. And my brother picked up a piece of glass and immediately cut himself. And he was just bleeding everywhere. And so what did I do as like a 6-year-old? I picked up the piece of glass and immediately was bleeding everywhere.
Oh my God.
Like when you're talking about like, I went, well, I can do it. I'm better than my 4-year older than me brother. I can definitely, handle the piece of glass that he can't handle. I'll show him. Anyways, so we both ran back to our house and got all bandaged up. But
Yeah, I find myself like, once you have enough stupid injuries and you start to recognize like where they come from. And like I said, I haven't had any bad workshop injuries, but I've had I'm like picking the piece of glass on my shoe. I've had plenty of other dumb injuries. I've gotten a bit better at like knowing when to like pay more attention when I may not have in the past. Like we've been doing a lot of moving, at the end of camp, and now this week moving stuff around the 2 spaces. And it's like, if you're moving a big piece of furniture and you don't think you're going to like quite make it through the door, and then you make it through the door, and part of you wants to celebrate and be like, oh yeah, we got it. All right. Like, but when you start doing that, you lose attention, and that's when something bad is going to happen. So like today, for example, I find myself, we're 2 of us were moving one of our small desktop CNCs, and we kind of like, I don't know, got through a tough spot, and I was like, yes. And I was like, okay, I need to stop being happy and just get this to a point where it can be put down safely. Because that's when I'm going to drop it and ruin all the hard work that we did. When you kind of like forget about where you are, that's when those bad things happen.
Yeah, you're carrying something heavy and you get it through the doorway, and then you're like, high five. Oh,
yeah. It's also like, makes it all the worse too, because you just put on all this work and then you ruin it for no good reason.
I learned the other day not to touch CNC bits.
Yeah, actually, so tell your story and then I'll tell a related one.
Yeah, so I put the CNC bit in the router bit. I put the CNC bit in the router, and then I don't know what I did, but for some reason I put my hand past the router, and as I pulled my hand back, I caught it on the bottom corner of the CNC bit. And this is a brand new CNC bit, so it was extremely sharp, and I just sliced my finger completely open.
The exact same thing happened to one of our staff members. He like just kind of, I think for him it was like he was just kind of like just sliding his finger down the CNC bit just to see what it was, and he sliced open his finger and he had to go to the hospital.
Ooh. Well, I didn't go to hospital. I've never gone to hospital.
It wouldn't stop bleeding.
No, neither did mine. Mine bled for about 2 days. I just kept taping it up.
Okay.
I don't go to hospital. As I said, like, so the cut on my right hand, which is from a piece of glass, we had this portable air conditioner, and I reached behind it, not realizing that a glass had broken behind it, and I just sliced my hand open, and it was like, it probably needed stitches, and I just dealt with it. I don't know.
I don't go to the hospital either.
No, I don't go to the hospital. I don't go to the doctor.
So one time, and I probably should have, because I definitely didn't have my tetanus shot, but one time I stepped on a rusty nail. Mm-hmm. So something I've learned is now when when I'm doing demo, anytime I'm doing demo now, I immediately bend over all the nails. Yeah. If I take something out and it's got a bunch of nails in it, I bend them over. I don't care. I'm just hammering them away, bending them over so that you won't step directly on them. It's something I've too many times I've either like grabbed onto it and the nails have like poked me, and that's not too bad because you don't have the grip, but I've definitely got a nail through the shoe that went through the shoe into my like arch of my foot. Yeah, that sucked.
I still do that.
Well, I don't do that anymore because I bend over all the nails. And I say F you to those nails.
That happened to me in high school when my buddy and I were and a bunch of us we were building like a fort in the woods to, hang out of sight of our parents. And we were doing it with a bunch of this. It was a very well placed woods because in everyone's backyards, they would throw out like construction debris. So we found like old windows and like entire sections of walls and couches and stuff. So we were old enough that we could actually like, we made this fort like multiple stories. It was kind of like a tree house and it was pretty sweet, but lots of rusty nails. And one day I was helping my friend build it and I stepped right on a nail. And it was the day before I was going to hike Mount Washington, which is the tallest mountain in like the east, or I think the northeast of the United States. And I still did the hike the next day. And it was the type of, pain where like you kind of forget about it after a certain while. You kind of just internalize it. But after that hike, it was an awesome hike. We get in the car. We go to get pizza and I get out of the car at the pizza place.
Is 3 times the size.
Well, and I go to take a step and I like fall down because it hurts so bad. Also didn't get a tetanus shot, but I've yet to have lockjaw, so I don't think I got tetanus from that.
Yeah. So when I worked in a kitchen, they had like like the back door had like, I don't know, piece of wood that was just like their whole, and everyone would do chin-ups on it. And one time I jumped up, and you had to jump to do chin-ups, and I used to be in better shape. So you jump up, grab onto the piece of wood. There was a rusty nail just sticking up there, and
Ooh.
I just grabbed on as tight as I could right into this rusty nail, and that sucked. And that's when I found out about these like finger condoms that you put on if you work in a kitchen. I'd never seen them before. Yeah.
Very, very handy. The big thing at camp this summer, the most common injury is hot glue gun burns. All the kids.
Yeah. So many times.
Yeah. Like, so we use them all the time. We have like
every time.
Tens of them. And it's worse when you have a group of 20 kids all using hot glue guns at once. Kids are like, they bump their elbows into another hot glue guns. There's plenty of kids that want to just put the glue directly on their hands and play with it. So
I've done that.
There was definitely like a couple days the camp nurse was a little frustrated coming to me like, are we done with these hot glue gun activities? Like, I'm tired of calling parents and telling them their kids got burned again.
She just moves in, sets up a tent. I'm here for the day now.
Yeah, honestly.
When I was in grade 9, we had a technology class, and one of the things, I don't know what we were building, but we all had hot glue guns, and I might have been bullied a bit. But one of the group I was in, they were like they all showed like that they had hot glue on their fingernail, and I'm sure what they did is they waited for it to cool and then put it on there, and then they said, "If you're cool, Grant, you'll put it on your fingernail and you won't squirm."
Oh no!
So they put this massive pile on my fingernail, and it hurt a lot.
Yikes!
I bet.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. So for some reason, I always burn myself with a hot glue gun and a soldering iron. Every time.
I have definitely picked up a soldering iron like a pencil.
Yeah, I've done that.
Fun.
Yeah. I wish that they made a soldering iron that you could hold like a pencil. It would be so much easier.
They do. You hold it like a pencil from really far away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like an awkward pencil.
Yeah.
They have ones that are closer. Okay. It's just
I hate soldering.
Yeah. You gotta buy it. You gotta pay more money. But that's like everything. Like a lot of things, if you want to prevent injuries, you can usually buy stuff that's better that'll be less chance of preventing injuries. So on my saw, it doesn't have a riving knife. They didn't come with them. Everyone on the internet who tells me, why are you making these cuts without a riving knife? Well, that's because it didn't come on my saw. It's not a thing. I would definitely use a riving knife if I had one. But that's a piece of technology that's really old technology. But there's things like SawStop would be, Jacob from Native Son Wood Art, just the SawStop at his makerspace had been like the someone else had hit it, and they needed a new cartridge. So he was using the non-saw stop saw and cut his finger. You know,
Yikes.
yeah. So that probably hurt a lot. And then, that's one of those things that I love my saw because of the sentimental value that it gives me. But I think it's one of the few things that I think I might one day actually upgrade just for like the ease, because I don't do it every day. That, I might one day make a stupid mistake. But then at the same time, I think people who do it every day end up becoming complacent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, you're also
I'll admit.
Go on, Adam.
I was gonna say, I'll admit, I don't use a table saw safe at all. I don't use guards. I most of the time, if it's not on camera, I'm not using a push stick. I'm not really the safest when it comes to it. I don't really use a table saw that often though, and I
don't use a push stick all the time. I find that my hands are direct feedback to me, and I can really feel if the wood is moving or doing something stupid. I can stop.
Yeah,
and if I'm using a push stick,
but when you're cutting something an inch thick on camera, people will destroy you in the comments if you're not using a push stick.
Oh, I'm definitely always do, and I say I don't care.
I'm definitely more scared of a miter saw than a table saw. That's what I feel like, and I have like pretty comparable experience with both of them. Probably like same amount of hour. Well, I've definitely used a table saw continuously for longer than a miter saw. I just feel like things feel more explodey on a miter saw than they do in a table saw. That's what I'll say. Like there's a bigger chance of the piece like just exploding altogether if it's not being held properly or something like that. I feel like a table saw just feels more controlled.
I think a table saw used properly with either the fence or the, a sled or a miter slot gauge. Definitely, if used properly, I think a table saw is safer than a miter saw. But then if you start introducing things like clamps and stop blocks on a miter saw, I think that it can also be safe.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it comes with as many safety features built into it that a table saw does. Like it doesn't have the fence the same way.
Yeah, you know what I think it is about a table saw that I really like is that like you can see everything that's happening the whole way through, unless you're doing some sort of blind cut. Like you see the blade passing through the wood. Whereas with a miter saw, like as you lower the saw, you're kind of blocking your field of view. And unless like you're super comfortable on it and you have really good proprioception, where knowing where all your body parts are and where the wood is, it's like you have this moment of blindness that I don't really like. Whereas I feel like I can see the whole process on a table saw.
I guess I grew up with safety squints, so I'm used to that.
Yeah, I find that really interesting because I have no fear of miter saws at all. I'm definitely more scared of a table saw than a miter saw. But I will say the scariest thing for me is cutting aluminium on a miter saw. Like it always has that like clunky sound, and it just scares the shit out of me every time.
So I would say when I was less experienced, I was more afraid of the table saw. But as I've gotten more experienced, I'm more afraid of the miter saw than the table saw. I still am like the router is the thing that to me is the most.
Oh yeah, the router for sure.
I've never been injured by a router. I can just see it going like a wood chipper, my finger going into it and just like disappearing.
And if it like catches a little bit weird and you get jolted and stuff.
I've definitely had it throw a piece across the garage, and I just went, "What happened?" And it just like caught a knot and just went like, smooth sailing, caught a knot, went boom.
I have a new router that I need to install into my router table because my other one blew up. But the other day I needed to use a flush trim bit, so I just put it in the CNC and then turned the CNC on so it was like locked in place, and used it as like an upside down router table. I don't know if it can affect the CNC though, because I'm like pushing on the belts, like. So I didn't really want to do it. I probably won't do it again, but I mean, it works for the time being.
Right, because the only thing that's providing a stop is like the transmission. It's like putting your car in park and parking on a hill. But it can't be much different. Like, it can't be much more stress than just the resistance that it's operating against when it's cutting through a piece of wood.
Yeah, I'm sure not. I mean, so the CNC I got, they also make like an upgraded version, which is all like threaded screw instead of belts.
Yeah.
Which I think would be a lot better. But like I just like there's a bit of tension on the belt, you know, like it has that little bit of flex and that. So I was a bit worried about that. But yeah, it was interesting trying to do that.
We got one of those at work this summer, the screw feed CNC. It's a Onefinity.
Yeah.
And the thing's a beast. One. Like the servos.
I wish I went for the upgraded one. Yeah. I wish I went for the upgraded model. But I didn't really know much about it at the time. And as everyone like that I've talked to said, like if you didn't get the one you got, you wouldn't know that you wanted the other one.
Yeah.
Like you need that experience. So we'll probably upgrade one day if the business goes where I want it to and stuff.
For sure.
But back to like the table saw, I think something that I need to keep in mind is that I've never had a good table saw. Like every table saw I've had is like a cheap, like the most I've ever spent on a table saw is $200.
Oh my God. Like, so I used a friend of mine's like cheap rigid contractor saw that he bought.
Yeah, which is probably still better than what I have. Yeah.
It was scary the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like, it just didn't feel safe the entire time he was using it. And he had a micro jig gripper and everything. Yeah. And I just went, I don't want to be around when this is happening. Like,
yeah.
It was like, I think, go over to my house.
Installing it into my workbench, I think it's a lot safer than it was because it's all very sturdy, but it's still like it's not a proper table saw. So.
Buying nicer tools also just makes it safer. Like when you don't have to worry about the quality of the cut, or like in my case, I used for the first like 4 or so years of like making on my own outside of like my parents' basement. I was using my dad's old corded Ryobi circular saw from like, I don't know, the early 2000s or the late 90s or whatever. And
was it blue?
It was blue.
Yeah.
Dark blue. And
the good ones.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it was fine, but I always had to be maneuvering around the cord and it was super loud. So it was like, if I didn't have ear protection all the way in, it was like pretty jarring to use. So it didn't feel like the most comfortable thing to use. And now I have the cordless one, which is brushless and way quieter. And just the comfort of using it makes it feel so much safer because, number one, I don't have to worry about maneuvering around the cord. And I just am more confident that it's going to get a quality cut easier. It's a much nicer experience. And from that, it is safer.
Right. And I think that's a big, like trip hazards are a big thing that people don't think about a lot in the shop. But I think you're talking about the cord is one of the things that it's very easy to like wrap yourself around with a corded tool.
Yeah.
And I know like Jeff, a weird guy, was chatting on the Discord group, on the Makers on Zoom having Discord group about getting a new sander.
Makers on Zoom having Discord.
Yeah. He was chatting about getting a new sander, and he was like, "I'll just get a corded one because I don't want to buy a Ryobi one. And I don't want to have a new battery system." And I just went like, just buy the better, just like buy once, cry once. It's one of those things that I don't know. I just couldn't see going back to corded tools unless I was doing 8 hours of drilling or 8 hours of sanding.
So I actually did go the opposite. I used to have the Ryobi cordless circular saw, and I always had issues with it. No, I didn't always have issues. Towards the end of its life, I had issues with it. But I used to use it to like cut up pallets and stuff. So I bought a corded Makita circular saw, and I find it so much better to use. I don't know if it's in my head that I just assume that a battery one's not going to be as good, but. Yeah, the only issue I know.
But the only issue
I know. The only issue I've had a couple of times is that I don't think about the cord with the actual wood that I'm cutting. So if I'm cutting a full sheet, I'll get halfway through cutting the sheet and the cord's caught on the other end of the sheet of like MDF or whatever. But other than that, I never have issues with like cutting, like trip hazards and all that sort of stuff. In saying that, to say what with Jeff and that is, I think that if it's something you need to connect dust extraction to, there's no issue with having a corded power tool because you're going to have that hose anyway. And if that is an issue for you, then you can connect. You could use zip ties or something to connect the cord to the hose, and then it takes away that trip hazard because you've got that bigger surface area to keep an eye on. Like you've got something going to it anyway, so why not have the cord?
I almost never connect my sander to the dust thing.
Do you know, I never used to, and then I got like not a good sander. It cost me $50 from Audi, but like it's very powerful and it doesn't stop when you push down on the top. Like the Ryobi one, if you push down on the top, it just stops spinning, but it vibrates. It doesn't keep, so like this one, like if I push hard down on the top, it still spins. And I connected the dust extraction to it, and like what a difference it made. Like I went from not being able to breathe in my shop with a dust mask on to not even needing PPE at all. So
I think that's very interesting because I think that you're just, again, comparing apples and oranges. But I agree.
Well, no, but the Ryobi one, the Ryobi sander I have, like the cordless one, doesn't have dust extraction at all.
So anyways, we'll not compare. We'll stop this like nonsense that you're comparing different things here. But I do think PPE is something that people really should think about more. I know I've personally been starting to use ear protection a lot more. I'm almost always wearing my safety glasses as soon as I get out into the shop. And there's been a few times where I've gone to I've started up my table saw, realized throw my safety glasses on, go, but I'm only making one cut. But then I also go, and that's the one that's going to go into my eye. And then I go grab the safety glasses, right? Like I've got myself trained in order to actually do it.
I hate safety glasses. They always get fogged up.
Buy better ones.
Yes, I need to.
But everything that you do, you need to step it up one notch, and then it'll be so much better.
I know.
I'm always like kind of blown away how when I see people like not wear hearing protection. So I'm like, that tool's like really loud. Like it's unpleasant to use without hearing protection. Like I just don't understand.
Yeah.
So I pretty much always wear hearing protection if I'm using a loud tool, and I guess to protect my eardrums, but it's also like a much more pleasant experience to not.
I do most of the time.
Deaf.
Yeah.
I think those people are likely already. I know I've already lost a lot of my hearing from not wearing hearing protection when I was younger. And working.
The thing is, though, like
cars and stuff.
Yeah, like with me, like I'll wear hearing protection in the shop, and then I'll go get in the car with like subs and stuff and turn the music up really loud, But I won't use hearing protection for the miter saw, but I use hearing protection for my planer, for my thicknesser, and I'll use it most of the time for the table saw. Although I don't really like to use it for the table saw because I like the hearing of the machine and how the wood's cutting is a lot of feedback for me.
Yeah.
So,
with my hearing protection, you can still hear it. It's just way quieter.
Oh, mine.
But I agree. Oh, I don't know.
It's made to be like that. It's proper.
Right.
It's proper PPE. For that reason, you're not meant to hear anything other than the music that you're playing through it. I don't use it. Yeah, and I don't use it for the CNC either, because usually I just start the cut and then leave. And just come and check on it every 10 minutes or so.
Well, so one thing I wanted to talk about when I suggested this topic is the difference between hobby working and factory or employment-driven working. So I was watching Don Bullock has a woodworking news is one of his new things, and he was talking about this new bandsaw technology that's a lot like a saw stop where it stops the blade, and it was mainly intended for meat processing places.
Interesting. Oh,
because obviously bandsaws are used in meat processing a lot.
I think it's the original use for a bandsaw is cutting meat.
Yeah.
Very, very possible. They obviously in a processing plant, speed is what you're looking for. The employer wants you to process that meat as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you sometimes are doing it faster than you probably should. And I know we talked a little bit about speed, but when you're doing it for yourself, even if you're doing it for an employer, but if you're definitely doing it for yourself, I think Morley's "it's not worth it" should go through your head over and over again.
Yeah.
It's never worth it. You got 5 minutes, and it's a 10-minute job. Save it for another day.
Yeah.
I think I actually find it easier to work safer when I'm being employed by someone else. Just being able to like depersonalize myself from the work and being like, like this isn't it's not like my passion project, even if I might be very into the work that we're doing. So I'm like, let's take the time and do this right. It's not my capital that's on the line.
Right. But you haven't worked in like maybe the production of the sets, but if you look at like someone who's cutting meat on a thing, it's like, grab this leg, cut it in half, cut it this, cut it that way, cut it this way. Right.
Yeah.
And it's a repetitive factory-like setting.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when I was working for the set shop, you're right. Like the production focusedness of it, and the fact that I wanted to like show I was, a good worker, I would try to do things quickly, even though I might not have been skilled enough to actually do the things quickly. And it was really helpful having the older guys there to be like, no, we're not doing this. This isn't safe, because they knew what to watch out for. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you're a little more green, you might not even know something you're doing is unsafe.
True.
Yeah, definitely.
So all that to say, if you're doing it hobby, it's your hobby. Be safe.
Be safe.
Especially something we didn't touch on actually is that a lot of people that are doing this as a hobby are probably home alone too. And that's probably something to really keep in mind. Like if you're totally at a business, if you're at a business, there's other people working near you. Most of the time when I'm working is when I'm home alone. So I think it's very important to take safety into consideration in that sense.
Well, so that reminds me of Tennille was on. I can't remember, it was Mixers Figuring It Out or Because We Make, or even a Zoom call, maybe all three of those. But I can't. She was talking a story about when she worked at a saddle shop, and the guy sewed through his hand, and obviously, and he was alone working there, and she was like his new employee, and she said, "Well, how did you deal with this before?" And he takes off his shoe and throws it at the wall. And a minute later, the barber from next door comes by, and his lifeline was throwing a shoe at the wall and hoping the barber notices it. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good segue to the thing I'll end on, is that at work when we say we're training staff, we say, like, if there's a fire, the thing you should do, don't pull the fire alarm, just yell fire as loud as you can, and people will come and help. That's the thing to do.
Oh, why not pull the fire alarm?
Because yelling fire is more effective.
Does your fire alarm not actually make a noise?
I would like to thank our Patreon supporters. Everyone who supports us there Eden's making funny faces. Oh, because Penny's being really cute over there. Has access to the after show and the pre-show, which are a lot of fun. And as well, they get a embossed leather keychain. Brent, I'm sorry for the delay. As I mentioned, it's been a pretty crazy 2 weeks, but since Adam was a little late to this recording, I had the chance to finish it up right before we started. So I'll get that sent out in the next day or so. But yeah, like I mentioned, Brent from Clean Cut Woodworking, I believe, is our F-Clamp level supporter. Anyone who supports at that level, we'll shout you out in the show. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to patreon.com/clamp. But if you want to support us in other ways, we always appreciate if you tell someone about the show who you think would enjoy it. And on that, Clampmendations.
Clampmendations. So my Clampmendation this week is Dead Rise Woodcrafts Emmett over there. He has been putting on a chess set for charity. I made a pawn. Lots of other people, I don't know how many, 32 other people, however many chess pieces there are, have been contributing to this set. And the raffle is on now. And it's a really cool, everyone made one piece. Some people made more than one, but every single piece is from a separate maker. So go check that out. Go to his Instagram or his YouTube. And also in the show notes, we're going to be leaving a link to his link tree, which is where you can find information on how to buy raffle tickets. And all of the proceeds, from what I understand, are going to charity. So, and I believe it's Proud Haven in Pittsburgh, and it's a charity for LGBTQ people who are homeless, and they help people there. So it's a really good charity, and yeah, I think it would be really cool. I bought tickets today, so it's pretty easy. Just pay with PayPal. It was nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll be getting my tickets next week. My Clampmendation for this week is a movie I haven't actually seen yet, but I'm so excited for. I've been waiting for it for like 2 years now, and that is Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds and quite a lot of YouTubers, apparently. But yeah, it's sort of like how do I explain it? It's kind of like VR, but for real life in a way. Ryan Reynolds is in this video game, but he doesn't realize it's a video game. Keeps living the same day or something, and then the trailers look really good. So yeah, very excited for that. I think it's out of the movies in America at the moment, but we haven't got it here yet.
Nice.
So, yeah.
All right. I want to shout out my buddy Abel, who I work alongside at the Steam Project. He is just a great guy, super hardworking, great maker, great at identifying issues and stuff. And he also has a pretty sweet Instagram at, I think it's pronounced Ayanotype, Ayanotype. He studied industrial design, so he has a really cool eye for things and is pretty skilled at designing in general. He also has an Etsy shop where he sells leather supplies. It's called Relic Leather Goods. He hasn't posted in a little while, I think mostly due to the busyness of the summer, but I hope he starts posting again soon, and maybe this will get him to start doing it a little more. But yeah, all the leather work and industrial design and stuff on his Instagram as is really cool. It's a pretty sweet feed just to scroll through. Abel Jan at Aonotype. Go check him out. And Abel, post some more stuff. All right. Adam, cool. Do we have a Aussie word of the week?
I do have an Aussie word of the week. I have a fun one this week, but it's just occurred to me that you guys probably know what this word is. But this word this week is slippery dip.
Oh, you've said this one before.
No, I haven't.
You haven't? Isn't it a slip and slide?
It's not a slip and slide. Slip and slide is the water thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I know what it is, because from the Big Les show.
Of course.
Which I told you about, but you haven't seen that, right? You haven't seen the Big Les show?
I know what it is.
Isn't that like just a slide in a park?
Yeah.
A what?
Everyone should go watch the Big Les show. It's hilarious.
A slide. Like a kid slide.
Word?
Slippery dip. 2 words.
Slippery dip. I would never have gotten that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for.
Boy, let's go down the slippery dip night.
Yeah. In saying that, I also wanted to touch on. I put a story up on my Instagram the other day asking if people make roasts on their barbecue, because I was currently cooking a roast on the barbecue, and I got a message from Jeremy Speck. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. Saying that must be an Australian thing. And I said, what, a barbecue? And he said, no, roasts.
Oh, roasts in general?
Roast in general. So he said that, I said, oh, it's a roast dinner. And he's like, I don't know what that is.
I think it's more of like a a British, sort of Commonwealth country thing.
So we talked about it and got to a point. I said, I'm pretty sure it's what you guys call like a Sunday dinner, or like what you would have at Thanksgiving and stuff. And we got to the point of him saying that they would never call an entire meal a roast.
Yeah, it's accurate.
Huh.
Which I found very interesting.
Well, I would definitely call it a roast dinner in Canada.
Yeah.
It does sound very British from an American perspective.
Yeah.
Which is, the thing with a lot of Canadian English. A lot of it does sound pretty British because it's mostly just British English with a Canadian accent.
You know what's interesting about this whole thing is that I always thought his name was Jeremy Spence.
Oh.
And I just looked at it now and went, there's no N. Sorry, Jeremy.
Yes, and I do apologize. I'm sure I botched your last name. Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry.
All right. On that.
Yes, move on.
TF Turning, thank you for the theme music. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us at Clampcast or The Clampcast everywhere. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Check it out. There's a website as well.
Also, I want to thank our guest, Morley, for coming on.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'll see you again in like a month or so. Also, I forgot to make a joke at the beginning. If you didn't like the show notes last week, it's because I couldn't do them because my computer broke. So send your hate mail to Adam or Grant. I don't know which one of you ended up doing it.
Grant.
Wait, last week? That was 2 weeks ago. You did them.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
You did them last week.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go talk in the after show. And if you want to listen to that, you can support us on Patreon. Bye.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Panda. Oh, I can just start. I don't need to wait till Adam gets his Clampmendation.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on.
All right. Here we go. Hello, and whoa, that was really excited. Try that again.